virtual worlds. So you tend to see me around in form of an avatar, walking in 3D, a little 3D cartoon character walking in beautiful paradisic environments, in countries without borders. And no, it's wonderful. And I love language teaching at a distance. So I'm totally a person who loves online and been online for many years. So over to you, Vance.
Okay. I still see Heike's picture. Oh yeah, here we go. Okay. There's me in the, okay, that's me. This picture was taken at TESOL convention a few years ago, 2018 in Chicago, I believe, and I had just seen a copy of an article about webheads in the TESOL Encyclopedia of Language Teaching, and I'm standing there at the booth with the article, with the book open to my article, and the lady there was kind enough to take my picture. So I've got well over 100 presentations, and one of my communities of practice is Webheads. Webheads in Action is what the encyclopedia article is about. And I'm retired in Penang right now, although I was teaching for about 40 years, and mostly ESL, also computing, things like that. And basically, I do a few things right now. I'm the editor of the TESOL EJ, that's TESOL Electronic Journal online, a free online journal. And I'm a coordinator of Electronic Village Online. And lately we've been doing a session on Minecraft, EVO Minecraft MOOC. So that's, and then I do also Learning Together. I just told you this was the 485th session of Learning Together because I concatenate Learning Together. Anything I do online is Learning Together. That's what it's all about, Learning Together. It's a free, unfunded podcast series. So if you look up learningtogether.net, you'll find it. And I've been doing that for about 10 years. So anyway.
And the interesting thing is that Vance and myself, we've never met in real life. And we feel very close as long-standing friends, and I've never even hugged him ever once. But we've been.
We'll have to fix that.
That's the wonders of life.
It is that you feel like you know the person so well already, even though it's at a distance. So that's the beauty of distance.
That's true. You know, we used to say that about virtual worlds. Well, not virtual worlds, but communities of practice, that we would get to know people online. Then when you meet them at a conference or whatever, you just walk right up to them and say, hey, how are you doing? You know, wow, it's so nice to see you. And you don't have, you pass over that get to know you stage, you know, the awkward moments of meeting someone for the first time. It's just amazing. So a lot of people.
Would you agree, Vance, that it's not like that going online means increasing your friendships or contacts forever, but it's more like that you do stay connected to a smaller group of people quite a long time, and you become you tend to work together even like closer over the years. Or do you feel that you have too many contacts now worldwide?
No way. I've been doing EVO, Electronic Village Online, for 20 years. A lot of those people I've met. A lot of them I haven't. But as I take the people in my session, the Minecraft MOOC session, I've met a few of them, but not that many, you know, so about half a dozen. And I've known a lot of them for a long time. And I've been working, as Heike said, I've been working with her for a long time in her virtual roundtable projects and so many online events. And yeah, even Maha is one of these people that I've met off and on in virtual environments, but haven't met yet. But in any event, you never know, we might meet one day. Egypt is not that far away.
Yeah, sure. So let's start with the very first question about what do you think of blended learning? Surprisingly, I have met people who asked me what is blended learning recently. So, Heike, would you like to start? Well, what do you think of blended learning? What's blended learning?
Well, actually, I would like to pass the ball over to Vance, who is demonstrating what blended learning is all about. Is there a chance that he could screen share, Maha? Or
So, sure.
because he's the blended learning guru in my eyes. So he's the person who's
Well, yeah, okay. Well, to start with, blended learning is a combination. It means many things to different people. Kurt Bonk used to do a slide presentation where he had a blender on the slideshow, and he used to put in the elements of blended learning, and then actually blended it. Actually, so that was a nice graphic. I'm still looking for the share. Let's see. Nope.
No, you can go ahead.
This will stop the screen sharing.
Oh,
Yes,
sorry.
I'll
Yeah.
continue and stop. Yeah, no problem. So
Okay.
I'll just share my screen over here. Okay, so I guess we're gonna have to put up those little black blobs on the edge because I've got a full screen here. So I put together, Heike and I worked together actually on this Google Doc. And there's if you want to see the Google Doc, you can go to tinyurl.com/bouncing2020blended. So if it's got a table of contents, so if you want to know what we think of blended learning, you can click on blended learning and you'll see what we think about it. So blended learning is something that I got quite close to because I did a English language specialist session in Thailand last January. I was asked to give lots of different talks. Let's see, I didn't really pull that tab up there, but
Vance, can you just move that
anyway,
black box on the right-hand side still further away? And it gives
The
us a message
black-
that says, please move this window away from the shared application.
I see that. Yeah, because I'm in full screen mode
That's
now.
right. Okay.
And I don't know, maybe I could just, yeah, how's that? Is that
That's
better?
fantastic. Okay.
Yeah, okay. All right. So I'm also recording this in
Oh, that's better
Camtasia,
now.
so-
Fantastic.
yeah, okay. Yeah, fortunately we got together and we worked out these little details before. Heike was very helpful. She always is. She's very helpful about, I took a course from her one time, and she's really meticulous in working with people. I really recommend her courses. But anyway, blended learning, I gave a workshop. Maybe I'll just see if I can hit it over here. Let's see, there's a new tab right there. I'll go to, it's called Workshops 2020. There we go. So this is what I did in Thailand. I did a workshop on blended learning. And the last thing I did, well, it had two parts. One was a face-to-face part where I did the actual workshops, and the other was an online part. So the face-to-face took place in January, online in March and in February and March. So to see if you go to this is workshops.pbworks.com. I don't know, maybe somebody. Well, I can. Well, actually, if you just go to this document right here, you can see all this stuff. So all the links are there. So go to tinyurl.com/bouncing2020blended if you want to follow along here. And I'll just talk about what this is. So if you go to workshops20.pbworks.com, then you'll see there is all the workshops I gave are in the sidebar over here. And I talked about tools for blended learning, things like that. The interesting, that's when I did this in January, we were just starting, we were moving around Thailand and taking flights and noticing people wearing masks. People were getting more and more paranoid. And then in February, when I did my online course where I was specifically asked to talk about blended learning. So I did a course on blended learning, learning how to create and use a blended learning classroom. So that link is here. When you go to workshops2020.pbworks.com, you can link to all these things. So this course I was supposed to do a consultancy on blended learning. And so blended learning is, this wiki kind of shows you what blended learning is. I did the workshops, which are over here. Okay, so like that's the workshops. I did these as face-to-face. So, but what I did was I set up these, just like I do in my classes, I set up something that the students could get to on their devices, and then I could go through it with them. Um, I wasn't able to flip it because I tried to flip it. I asked them if they could check these in advance, but it turned out that the communications were very poor, and most students appeared at the workshop and they didn't really hadn't had to look at it before. But so all these things I tried to I put things there that they could follow on their devices, and so we also did a lot of things that I think Heike will show you, like Menti, for example. She's going to do some things in Menti later on. I used lots of surveys and things like that. There's tools over here somewhere. Let's see, if I go to the second hour of the workshop was all about tools. So so anyway, I tried to engage them on their devices in a blended learning environment. So we were partly face-to-face, partly online. But then when I went to the online learning, that's this one right here. This is all online. So I had to design the course quite differently. Now, what happened during that course, it took place in February, and it was going kind of slowly when we started noticing that people were going back to classes and not able really to attend classes, face to face. They were having to move quickly to online environments. How do they do this? So it turns out that a good grounding in blended learning is very helpful in this situation. If you're already doing blended learning, like in your classes, and I've got lots of examples in this document that I put up. So let's see. I think that was in practical examples. I've got lots of examples of some courses I've taught in blended learning. So let's see. I think maybe no. Anyway, that's okay. I'm not going to swim around in here, but I've got. You can see some of the wikis I put on with students I've been teaching since 2011, and courses I've been running in EVO online since 2004. So all of these use the same technique, basically. I set up a wiki for them, and I work with the students in online environments as much as possible, and in class we try to, we try to make it so that they have things to click on, and they can go in and out of this. They can work online as well as face to face. So when you have to move online, it turns out that the people who are best at doing this, if I can get back up to the top here, I think I can just, should be a link right here. Here we go, back to the overview. Okay. Oh, heading, okay, well anyway, it's been fiddled with perhaps. Okay, I'll just come up to the top. So, what I've kind of written up here is how, this one right here. Jeff Lowe came to one of my online classes, and he gave a talk about how he's working with his students online in Korea. He had his whole department working in Blogger, and when they had to move to blended learning, they were already there, you see. So you just had to add Zoom. You can hear him describe that if you want. So basically what happened when I gave this online course, I saw that that blended learning was critical for this. Okay, so anyway, basically that took us into something I call Talon, and I wrote a little blog post about that, about how I got there into Talon. It's this link right here, and we pop down to the very bottom here, and you can see about Talon. So Talon is teaching and learning in isolation, and after the online course, I started talking to people about how they were coping with their online environments, and obviously through blended learning. So we did that for 20 weeks. 20 weeks, we did 38 episodes in Talon. And now we've moved, I stopped Talon and now I'm in Talon Squared, teaching and learning in the new normal. That's what we're talking about now. And on tomorrow at this time, I'm going to get a bunch of teachers together to talk about how they're doing. And if you want, you can go to the bottom of this document, go to this link right here, and it will show you, actually this link right there will take you directly to that listing. It shows you how to get into this conversation we're having tomorrow. And this is how you can join it. It's in Zoom as well. That's Learning Together, which is, like I said, I've been doing this for 10 years now. So that's basically why I think blended learning is so important. There's just maybe one more thing I'd like to add, and that is, oops, I'm in the wrong document here. That is, I think blended learning is important in the classroom for 3 reasons. And one of them is that it gives you an ability to communicate with students and show them exactly what you want them to do, give them clear links to click on, spell out what they need to do, what they need to submit, etc., where they can find supporting materials. And it also, in these wikis, you can archive things and you can use them in later courses. You can develop courses based on your previous wikis if you want. And the main thing, though, one really interesting thing is that you can also, all your materials become open educational resources. So that is a wiki, generally, you can search it on Google. So I give an example that a colleague sitting at a couple of desks away said, hey, Vance, do you remember you had some instructions for getting students onto Audio Boo? Do you still have those instructions somewhere? I'm preparing for my next class. I don't really want to rifle in my file cabinets right now. I said, look, why don't you just Google it? And she says, what, Google Audio Boo? KBAC? KB, that's where we're working at Khalifa bin Zayed Air College. Or I said, yeah, Audio Boo, Vance. And so you could try that. You could Google it. And I Googled it and I came up on this this place where I had talked to some lady named Zahra in Iran. And I told her about this, so you can actually read about it. And see if I, well, it's easier to see over here. I actually wrote it out. Anyway, in that I wrote about how this colleague had asked me about this. And that's the big difference in open, in working in blended learning, is you have a lot of things that are online. You can share them with colleagues. So that's it for me. I can go. No, I'll listen to what Heike has to say. Everyone is muted except for me.
Heike, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah. What do you think of the idea of blended learning? Do you support or do you follow some of Vance's ideas, or how do you do it on your own?
Well, Vance is a fervent presenter of open educational resources. So he loves to share all of the resources and his know-how free, openly on the web. So that's one way of doing it. And I'll say there's another way. One way of doing it, such as in wikis, blogs, on Facebook. Another way of doing it is learning management systems. And learning management systems do kind of represent the schooling environment, such as that, where teachers and students have various roles in the learning management system. And I can give you some examples. That's Google Classroom, that's Schoology, that's Canvas, Edmodo, and various learning management systems that allow a measure of control over the students, in such as that it allows the teacher to see whether the student has been in the system, how long he's been there, what kind of pages the student looked at, how long he's been studying, maybe. I mean, you don't know whether they really read it or whether they just and also been able to address the students with assignments, etc. So, which is in many respects for those freedom fighters like Vance, who uh, is something contrary to learning or contrary to education, because every learner should be given the opportunity to learn everything. But it does give, in many cases, also a measure of helpful, say, as a teacher, sometimes I can have a look through my students' records and can see, oh, this person is really losing out. So why don't I contact that person? Because he's not been on for a while. And then I can help that person to get back into it. But these are two different systems, and each of them have their validity and so forth. What I would like to know from our audience, if I may ask this question to you, what does blended learning actually increase the motivation of your students? And if it does or doesn't, sometimes a blended learning system actually inhibits people to study. Sometimes learning management system work the other way, that we don't want to. We would like, as teachers, would like to provide everything for the students ready at hand. And then the uptake is not as we were hoping to. And with a wiki where an open educational resource is being put out on the web, as a teacher, it doesn't really matter, because how often that's been read or not, you wouldn't know. You wouldn't care. You wouldn't care less. You know what I mean? So you don't even know whether the information that Vance has put out has ever been read. So which system is the right one? I don't know. There is no either or. It's both have their, as I said, have their validity. But what do you think, you participants or attendees, even those on Facebook, do you think blended learning would actually increase motivation of your students to learn English? I assume that they're all English learners here.
Can I just say that blended learning is, by some definition, I mean, I've read this as a definition, it's supposed to be face-to-face plus the online component. So if you would know from meeting your students face-to-face if they had read these materials. So it's a little bit different from a totally online environment where you might not know, but you might have to use other tools to do that. So I just wanted to say that, clarify.
Okay, here we have Ayat. Nice to have you, Ayat, with us. You can unmute yourself. Go ahead.
Yes. Hi. Hi, Vance. Hi, Heike. Hi, Maha. How are you?
Hi,
Good to
hi,
see you all.
How are you? Great to see you.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. So I have 2 points here for Vance and Heike, actually. So for Vance, I know that you are a fan of MOOCs, and this is one form of online open source kind of courses. But the point is, some people cannot really find their way through a MOOC. So they just get lost, and there is no organized way to follow up their work, as Heike said, compared to the other form that Heike was talking about through the LMS. So how do you find the question to Vance? How can you support those people who just like get lost in a MOOC, or just start and then lose track of what they could be doing, because it's just an open course. There are lots of people, everything is just open, and there is no guidelines or time frame. There will be maybe recommended time frame, but not a time frame as such that they need to stick to and feel a sense of progress, because this is another important point for people who are taking a course or learning, that they feel there is a sense of progress. On the other hand, for Heike, I think that blended learning, in that definition of a blend of face-to-face and online, because there are lots of definitions for blended learning, so I'll go for the face-to-face plus online. I think that this engages the learners more, because they do have the 2 different ways of interaction, 2 different ways of finding content and learning. If they are somehow shy to interact with their peers in a face-to-face class, then they would interact more in the online platform or LMS. And I have seen this a lot with many of my students, some of them feel more comfortable being online because they are not on the spot, they are not suited, they feel less intimidated, while others would find that the live face-to-face interaction is the only way that they can get the most of the learning happening. So I think that that's what I believe about blended learning, that it gives the students different channels of communication and different ways to learn.
That is wonderful. And for me, my next question would be, where do your students post? Where do they learn? Where do they actually produce language?
So in a blended class, they do produce it in the LMS and in a face-to-face class. So we usually say, like, in a face-to-face class, they do the speaking, and we use the LMS more for writing, but now we're using it even for speaking. So some students who wouldn't speak that much in class, they might interact more using a recording tool, or maybe an online voice thread kind of discussion. So it depends, and I think both ways, face-to-face and online. And again, it depends on the learner and how they feel comfortable learning and expressing themselves.
Thank you, Ayat. Hind, go ahead, please. Yes, you can unmute yourself. Hind?
Maha, can I ask you to stop screen sharing? Because on Facebook, all people see is the JPEG. So if we were doing a discussion, then I'd really appreciate if we stop sharing. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. Okay, Hind, I will try to unmute you.
I managed to unmute.
Yes, that's great.
So, yeah. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So, I think a blended environment is much better than face learning, where you're not sure if the students are going to actually read the materials or do the work. So they can do it at home, and then when they come to class, you get to check that they've been doing the work, and it's a great way to follow up when they come to class. And in my environment, in my university, the students had problems with online learning and posting it on Edmodo or the different platforms. So we try, and because we weren't prepared for the situation, some of the students didn't have internet access, so they could do their assignments on a piece of paper and just send it on WhatsApp, or just try to make it a lot easier for the students, because we didn't have a system in place. So yeah, that's it.
Well, I can assure you, Germany didn't have a system in place either. So our teachers sent emails to their students.
It's the idea of getting used to things. At the beginning, it was a kind of shock for everybody, because nobody was prepared for this. Some people were already working online, but others weren't, or some others were rather shy to do that. But on the long run, we had to get used to it. And at the same time, it's trying to help students to go through it. As Ayat said, some of the students don't know how to go through a MOOC, but they take it step by step. If it can be a lot easier if we can do it on a platform like Edmodo or Wiki or something of the sort. They can learn it step by step. How to do it, you can show it them step by step online. So you can take it from there, and they can go ahead and then learn on the long run how to deal with MOOCs. So sometimes it starts difficult, but if we take it step by step, we can help people along the way. What do you think, Heike?
MOOCs are very interesting, but they're not, it's sort of hard. We're talking like not apples and oranges, but a fruit basket here. There are different kinds of MOOCs. One kind of MOOC like EdWeb or Coursera or something like that, they tend to be some sort of canned course where students take them systematically. But there are other kinds they call those, by the way, XMOOCs, because WebEx, or I think edX is one of the first. So George Siemens used to call them XMOOCs, but the CMOOCs, the connectivist MOOC, it's the kind of MOOC where you rely on your peers. And actually, I could show you. I'd queued something up here. See if I can share my screen. Here we go. All right, so here's Dave Cormier has a lovely little video here where he talks about success in a MOOC. He says there are 4 stages. First of all, you can orient. When you go to the MOOC, you have to orient. He's talking about, by the way, CMOOCs, connectivist MOOCs. Then once you're in the MOOC, you figure out where you are and you start saying who you are. That's declare. And then you start meeting people that you can network with. And because MOOCs are so massive, you're not going to meet all the people. So you can, by this time in the MOOC, hopefully you've decided, I just want to get together with a few people. And so a lot of times MOOCs, they involve lots of people, but actually the interactions you have with your closest collaborators in the MOOC, your closest people with the same mindset, that's where the learning takes place. And after that, you can focus. That is, you might come up with a project. That often happens in MOOCs, where you sort of meet this small network of people, and then you just move on from the MOOC. If the MOOC ends, well, you continue. And also, George Siemens and Stephen Downes, Stephen Downes in particular, says that MOOCs scale. That is, a course generally tends to be teacher-centric. So the teacher is kind of in control of things. And when the teacher is in control, the students have to interact with the teacher. That doesn't happen in MOOCs. That's why they're so scattered and so hard to figure out. But because of that aspect, you can interact with other people, and that's where the learning takes place. So once you've got that idea, then you can grasp MOOCs. You know, one thing about MOOCs, some people complain about MOOCs because people tend not to finish them. But if you take, say, a MOOC that gets 10,000 people in it, and you look at a course that might have 100 people in it, and out of that course, you might have 60, 80 people finish the course, but in the MOOC with 10,000 people in it, you might have 180. You know, I mean, it's a lot of attrition, but still, the MOOCs really tend to produce more people who finish them and who learn them. So the one other thing is that with a class, because it's one teacher, the MOOC doesn't scale. You can't really make it very large, but MOOCs play on the fact that that they can handle a lot of people, but they don't have one person handle them. So MOOCs a different thing. You have to understand about MOOCs before you can really take advantage of them. And you don't actually, a lot of times I join a MOOC, I don't really care about the syllabus. I just want to meet the people in the MOOC. I want to learn what I can, and then I leave, you know? So I've signed up probably for 10 times as many MOOCs as I've pursued for very long. And the last thing about MOOCs is it's not really blended learning either. So a MOOC kind of has to be totally online. It's a massive open online course. So it's not really what we're talking about here. So, but anyway, it's still a very interesting topic. And aspects of MOOCs have to be taken into your blended learning course. So if you experience MOOCs, then you are certainly better able to design a blended learning course.
Yeah. What about the experiences with teachers, Heike? Have since you have been involved in many projects with teachers, what about your experiences with teachers concerning blended learning and the idea of synchronous and asynchronous learning?
Okay, can I just give a little example here, which is a kind of interesting. We are here talking and discussing a subject that is down to every teacher's heart, that every one of us has an opinion, but also has maybe tried it or has tools at hand. There are 11 participants in this room here. There are another 18 on Facebook. And I've been asking everyone, please share your experience. So we have, in a synchronous environment, in a live online environment, we have usually a large number of people who are very passive. Is that so? Do you experience that as well with your learners? That whom you don't see, they happen to be there, but they don't text chat, they don't do this, that. Maybe they don't find the text chat, I don't know. So how do we do this? And blended learning is a means of reaching people who tend to be passive communicators in class, but they do like to learn. They like to be here. They like to listen. And lurkers. That is, sorry, it's not a bad expression, but they tend to also be quite actively learning as to what's going on. And Vance has already talked a lot about these happy online, those who are online watching on, etc., but don't get really involved. But the one question remains to all of you, and maybe if you could kindly ask that with a simple yes or no in the text chat. Do you feel that your learners are more motivated to learn English in a blended learning environment? Or do you think they're more motivated in a simply only online environment? Or what do you think your learners, how do learners take it? And where do your learners actively engage and post and be there and discuss and are part of it? What do you think, everyone? And I'm asking you, could you open the text chat and add your opinion, because we would love to hear from you.
Teams may help. What do you mean, Dr. Isaya? Would you like to open your mic and share your ideas? Of course, Hind, it's true that people are more engaged in face-to-face. This is what they are used to. The idea is that we are forced to get used to the idea of online learning. So many people, surprisingly, I met people, instructors speaking about this, that some people decided to stop their own courses, which they used to take face-to-face. They don't want to move online. They are going to wait until everything gets to normal, which is rather difficult. So that's a stance that people can suffer from. But again, how far are they going? How long are they going to wait? That's the question. So are they going to finally give up and join online learning? That's the question. It depends on environments.
Well, the scale is one of the things. You see, classrooms don't really scale either, because classrooms are teacher-centric. So the teacher can deal with one or two students in a face-to-face in a class. You don't really know what the other ones are doing. In an online environment, you have the ability to contact all of them and put them in touch with one another through forums and things like that. So it's possible. Depends on how you design the course. Of course, some teachers are engaging normally, or some people are engaging in person, but maybe not so engaging online. Some teachers, like myself or Heike, very engaging online. I've never met Heike in person. I don't really know how engaging she is. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, so doesn't know that about me either. Okay, so anyway, but the thing is that it's not really a simple question, because whether you're in a classroom and use the tools you have there, or just bore the students with lecturing, or whether you're online and use the tools you have there, you certainly have a much different tool set online, and you can engage a lot more students all at the same time if you do it properly. So it's quite possible to be very engaging online, I think.
I have some lovely comments now from our participants. May I read them to you?
Yes, sure. Go ahead.
One of which, I mean, on Facebook, Michael Birch said, it's easy to assume that the passive ones are underachievers, but it's not necessarily the case. Maybe they find the MOOC materials too limited or prescriptive. And then Nicoletta said, her high school provides students and teachers with a Google studying platform, such as Google Classroom and Zoom. And we have Rosa saying it's difficult since we are not a country where English is spoken, so they're not really engaged in learning English, even online or face-to-face. Could I ask this question again to the audience? Have you found that COVID has actually changed the motivation of your learners to learn English? Has it increased or actually decreased? Do you think it's less or more that they want to communicate in English, that they somewhat has changed in their attitude? It'd be really interesting to find out. Thank you so much for your comments. Our Faisal says he thinks the staff and students are not familiar with such kind of learning. It seems difficult and all the time keep complaining of students' reply and commitments to online classes. Staff and students need training on how to use different educational platforms, not forcing us to one type of platform. I might send love to other platforms, Zoom, Google Meet, etc. And they're punched unwillingly, says Dr. Alhamshari. It's lovely to have you, Dr. Yusreya Alhamshari. Very nice.
I agree with Faisal. My personal love does not go to Blackboard very well. I was in a school where we had to use Blackboard. I found that the bandwidth didn't really support it. The students would try to go there. They get confused in Blackboard. But if you set up a wiki for them and you say, today we're going to hit this link, click on this link in my wiki, and then it takes them on their device to Blackboard where they're already signed in, and then everything just opens right away. So, you know, it's a blended environments give you an opportunity to get around some of these, to bring more platforms into your class, rather than having to, you know, if you think that if they tell you have to use Blackboard or Moodle or whatever, and you don't feel you have enough control over that, with a really nice personalized your own wiki, something you have control over, you can assuage, you can massage things so that they work well for you.
Yeah, and Heike, how would you like to comment on these ideas? We have more than one person here mentioned the idea of assessment online, and of course it's not that easy to do assessment online. What do you think of this?
There is technology in place to do assessment online. The question is whether it's able in language learning, when you have a clear, I mean, there's, for example, TOEIC tests, yeah? You could do an online test with TOEIC, but what is difficult to determine is how well the speaking activities of a student is, how well he expresses, he or she express English in a certain context and so forth. So spoken and listening skills, well, listening skills is better, but spoken English is still difficult to assess because there's no machine out there that would be able to assess that. So it has to be a teacher, obviously. And we should also not just think of assessment as in the typical exam time situation, because we could also assess how active has the student been throughout the year. Because if they make it could be that they are learning English by playing video games. Who knows? You know, how would you find out? So it is obviously a difficult topic, and there's no, I mean, I couldn't say offhand a tool that says it would perfectly assess if I was to run the test and then I would speak into it, and then the machine would tell me you are an A2 learner with dominance in speaking with B1. I don't know any of those.
Yes, yes, but that's the point. Some people said that there are some apps that you can use online. The students can record their own answer to certain questions, and then it can give you a preliminary evaluation or assessment of this kind of learning, and tells you if it's suitable for A1, A2, B1, B2, for example, or it gives you the chance to listen later on to these, and you can just assess them alone later on.
What kind of apps are you talking about?
Unfortunately, I have one which someone in USA said that they had this LMS. It's special for their own university, and the students record their speaking, and they listen to it later on. And this app gives them a preliminary some kind of evaluation about the level of the student. But it's something special for the university, something especially designed for them. Yeah.
It would be great to have something like online. Does anybody else know? Because Krishna asked the same question. Assessment in Nepal is not good. Whether we could suggest any techniques. Anybody know?
I see here that Hind has suggested the idea of WhatsApp. She says that WhatsApp is suitable for my environment over here, or her situation over there. So this is the ideas. I see that some people are already calling for this idea of using WhatsApp in learning or in assessment online, because they believe it's much easier if people use iPhones, or mobile phones. It's much better and easier for them than getting online, because they don't have even enough access to the internet, or they don't have access to the internet except on their mobiles. So they prefer to use the WhatsApp. Sometimes in some situations, it's much better, more convenient.
Very good. Would you, Maha, would you agree that with Dr.
Yusreya?
Yusreya. Communication is not a problem. When it comes to gaining degrees, it is difficult. Is that so? Would you agree?
We have apps, but institution procedures do not match. Dr. Yusreya, would you, excuse me, would you mind repeat the question again, Heike?
Yeah, Dr. Yusreya Al-Hamshawi.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, please.
Yes, sure, please, go ahead.
Hello, how are you?
How are you doing? Finally.
That's very good chance to talk to you. Ms. Maha, you are great, and thank you for this informative session that we really need to talk about it. I mean that learning knowledge concerning the curriculum is not a problem now, as we can use apps, you can use a lot of presentations and so on to get students know their curriculum. But how we guarantee that the assessment process is good? I can see that some students let other students do exams for them online. I can see that some students, once they click and find it's not true, they can try that it's false. So it's not appropriate for deciding degrees or granting degrees in something like medicine, something like physics, like whatever the applied science is. So we can decide. The institutional procedures also cannot help. How can I impose some apps to use with my students, and the institution do not approve it for me? So I can have toolkit. I can have a lot of apps for doing tests and doing assessment, but it's not illegal. It's not legal. I mean, it's not imposed in the institutional procedures of assessment. You got it? You got my point?
Yes, yes. Yeah. So you
So
mean
I can use a lot of apps are available on the internet, and I can do a lot of types of questions, MCQ, true, false, and so on. But it's not legal, and of course I cannot have lists of marks or scores for students from something which is not approved from them, the institution.
is
Got
there
my
a way
point?
that you can mingle both of them, use some of the tests or the assessment that you've already done through, use it in collaboration with that of the university? Is it possible to do
I
that?
have gained a course on 1907 about instructional design and how they put a list for cumulative assessment. It's
Mm.
not for tests. It's not for true, false, or MCQ and so on. It's about the performance of the students throughout his studying modules and throughout his semester performing on LMS or whatever the platform I use. So it's not a matter of putting a test of 70 items and he got 69% of 70 out of 70. He can got the full mark, but still the knowledge is not inside his mind. How he construct the knowledge, or how he acquired the knowledge inside his mind. That's the question of the learning outcome.
Yeah, these are the difficult questions that we are having popping out nowadays. Again, because sometimes we are having this idea of conflict between the private LMSs for different universities and what is supposed to be done. Sometimes the university just want to get over with the marks and things like that and tests and get over with it, and they don't care about the idea of step-by-step assessment or what the students have already gained from what you've already been doing.
Because it's a matter of by law. The by law is 70 marks for tests at the end or the final exam, and only 30 marks for the whole year performance. So
Mhm.
how can I perform, for example, writing an essay or writing a passage or writing a paragraph? That it's not included in true, false, or MCQ. So we have skills that cannot be assessed on the electronic system. We have skills that should be assessed through the performance of the students. He can write a paragraph, including the skills of writing, including the punctuation, including and so on. So this cannot be performed through the electronic types questions like true, false, and MCQ and so on, or matching only.
Yeah.
For example, if I'm teaching translation, how can I assess translation through using MCQ or true false? Do I have to give him different types of translation? So we don't
Vance,
have.
I'm sorry to buzz in, but I would love to ask you, Yusaya, as you're watching the situation now also with COVID and the situation that is in your school and the topic of assessment, which is always present basically in the teaching context. And what does everybody else think? What do you think is the future of education? Do you think that now, because of COVID, somewhat it has changed? And if so, what do you think? Where is the trend going, and in which direction is it going? And I'm asking this a little bit as a final question because I would have to run, I'm afraid. Another 10 minutes, and I'd still wanted to place menti.com. Menti.
Ich auch.
In a way or another, we are going to use online learning. In a way or another, we have to go with the whole world is going in this trend, so we have to use it. But what is appropriate for each context? What is appropriate for each country?
So what is the future of
each
learning?
type
What
of
do you think,
students.
Yusreya? The future. What's the future?
The future, we are going to use it. In my institution, I'm going to use this year, and the last year I'm going to use the team, Microsoft Team.
Microsoft Teams, very nice.
Yeah, and I used Google Classroom, and it was wonderful doing my tasks with the students.
Oh, lovely.
But I repeat, what we should care about is the assessment of the curriculum, the assessment of students' knowledge, not the way how do we deliver learning, because delivering learning is becomes more easier with the different types of apps that we can use and different types of instruction tools that we can use. But we don't have the facility in the same facility with assessment. We have tools for teaching, but we didn't have tools for assessment. You got it?
Maybe this takes us to the point that Faisal has already brought up here, that we need to give training both to staff and students, which is rather important since we have done everything all of a sudden. So we need to get to this idea of training and trying to convince the different colleges of the different problems that are popping up here and there. Heike, what would your last word be concerning the future of education?
Well, I'm very happy that finally the students are allowed to Google. This is what online learning has been in the schooling system here in Germany, whereas before children would enter school and they had to even leave their mobile phones at the entrance. And now they can be online at home and they can study as they please. They can study and they can increase their knowledge. And I believe that learning will increase through online learning. The speed of learning will increase, the pace, the volume of learning. I mean, it's happened to me through COVID, basically. I'm not quite sure about you guys, that the pace of learning will, and also self-determined learning will increase. I'm hoping at least, because that's down to all our heart, that the students are self-motivated to learn English. They go on YouTube or they play online games or they engage in conversation with their peers on Facebook, etc. That's my hope.
Let's hope so. Vance, what do you think? Yes.
I think that what Nusureya is describing is she's trying to assess people at the very high levels of Bloom's taxonomy, in the levels where they show that they've internalized what's gone before and they can actually think it through and do things with it. And the online tools that are available are tools often that address a very low level of taxonomy. So what you need to do in your program or your classes somehow is to find ways that the students can synthesize. So through projects or, you have to find ways that, that will bring the students from the low level tools that you're working with. And if your assessments are also low level, then not much is going to happen with synthesis and the higher levels of extrapolation that go into what you're trying to test them for. And I think that really is going to have to be a big redesign, because so many people are referring to the new normal. That's the old normal actually was a problem. It's kind of, there's some good things. If we're going to hopefully abandon some of the problems that we were sort of ignoring. The fact that a friend of mine said that on Facebook that she had just bought her first tank of gas since March. Okay, that's in the old normal. She was buying a lot of gas and polluting the atmosphere. Now that she's not going anywhere, she's not using so much petrol. Okay, that's also in education. We also have an old normal that really wasn't. Maybe it can be redesigned and made a lot better, and it's all obviously going to have to take into account the fact that you can't just go back to class unless we really get a good vaccine. Things are going to change. Even if you can go back to class, people are going to take things from the online learning. People aren't going to be all going back to offices at 8 in the morning, clogging roads and spreading their diseases, even when the immediate problem is over. So the same thing with classes, with education, we're going to have to redesign for that.
Yeah. So you support Heike's opinion of the future of education, that people will go on using online learning more than before?
Well, yes, I think that's what I said, because that's going to be the new normal. And you're not going to go back to the old normal. So you're going to, the new normal is going to be something that gets more sophisticated. I mean, if you look at what's happening in the social media world, where apps are designed, they're manipulative and addictive. Maybe you could do that for education. I don't know, you know, but I mean, some of these apps are really kind of evil, you know, but some of the things we learn from them can be applied perhaps to education. You can, like Class Dojo, for example, as somebody mentioned, this is gamification that can be turned toward an objective of making people want to learn. What Heike brought up earlier, engaging students, you know. So this all is going to happen with design. Design is going to improve. I think it will possibly, we'll get rid of some of the traps we were stuck in, the ruts we were stuck in the old normal, and we're going to hopefully come into a better world. Let's hope so.
Yeah.
I'm an optimist.
Oh, let's hope so as well. It seems that we are having Hana Khamis as well on Facebook, and it seems that she does have a question. Mohammed, can you post a question here, please? Yes, Ayat, thank you very much for the link, Ayat. That's the one, the beta one of the Cambridge, yes. Yeah, so it seems that Hana has a question for you. I hope that they can post it over here quite quickly. Yeah. Yeah, that's Ayat. She has already posted in the chat box, the speakandimprove.com. That's the Cambridge app for correcting writing. And it's suitable for beginners up to advanced, and also for people who are training to get the IELTS. But for the IELTS, you have to pay extra money for it, but it's a very interesting one. You can write, put your writing, and they are going to give you a highlight the sentences for you. If they highlight it with green, that's correct. If it's yellow, it's half and half, and if it's red, it's completely wrong. So you have to redo again and then post it once more. Yes, write and improve. Yes, and the speak one, that's a good one as well. Thank you very much for being with us here, Vance and Heike. It's been great having this very active and interactive discussion about blended learning. It's a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you very much. And thank you for everybody for being with us here. And please look forward to Heike's workshop by the middle of September. We'll be posting the date and the link. She's going to be giving a special, thank you very much for her. She's going to be giving a special workshop on SOFLA, which is a very interactive way for teaching online. Heike and Vance have already posted a link for a Mentimeter. You can find it over here, menti.com. Please go to this link. And
yeah, that's a question for me, please. If you could go to menti.com at the end of this discussion, because I thought it was a wonderful discussion. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. I thought it was so fantastic that you all joined this discussion.
Sure.
And that you mentioned also the fact about assessment. I think we would have never even talked about this one else. And very, very good. Your input, much appreciated. Thank you so much. And please answer menti.com. Can I give you the number again? For those
yes, I put it once more in the comment,
awesome.
In the chat box.
Thank you very much for answering this.
Yeah, please.
Okay, I've
yes.
put it at tinyurl.com/bouncing2020 blended as well. So
awesome.
You can find it there. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We work together.
Yes, sure. Yeah. So yes, thank you very much for being with us here, Vance and Heike. It's always a pleasure to do work with you, and we are looking forward to more collaboration. Thank you, everyone, and it's great to have had you with us today, and looking forward to seeing you once more. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank
your
you.
organizing this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
Bless your work, Maha.
Thank you, Heike. Thank you very much. And thank you for the upcoming workshop. And it's always a pleasure to do work with both of you. Thank you very much. Yes.
I have to put out the date again, because I planned some holidays.
You forgot about the date?
No, I'm saying we might have to to move it again.
To move
if
it
at all
again. Oh,
possible.
okay, it's all right. It's all right.
Sorry.
But hope it's in September. Hope it's in September.
Try and do that. Okay. Bye for
Okay.
now.
Bye. Thank you very much. See you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm
Thank
going to
you.
stop the Camtasia recording. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Mhm.
See you.
Okay.
Yeah. Here we have a question from someone online, maybe Hana. The idea is that you have to be more specific about the questions that you put for the specifications of the research that you need to put for your students. So yeah, of course, you won't guarantee 100% that they are going to be the ones that already did the project based, but at least at least you can you are going to help them to do even 50% is much better than not doing it at all. Yeah, as Hana here has been asking about this one on the Facebook. She said that there is a trouble with project-based learning, that assessment, that we are not sure that the students did the projects themselves, someone did it for them. So I've had the same experience with my own students at university, and so I put a lot of specifications in order for the research to be done in a certain way, and to make them use the things that we have already studied during the term. So it would show me somehow who really attended the sessions, who read what we have already done through the curriculum, and also who or did some of the assignments that I've already given them. So it doesn't guarantee 100%, but at least it's partly they are going to have done some kind of work, partly much better than not doing anything at all and depending on others to do the work for them. Thank you. Yes, Dr. Estrella, thank you. It has been a pleasure having you with us, and thank you all for interacting with us so actively online, and hope to see you so soon. Thank you very much, and see you.